Hi, welcome. This is Kelly Green, and I'm here with Gabrielle Bernstein. We are at the Chopra Global's Infinite Possibilities Retreat with Deepak Chopra. So excited to be here. We have about 400 people attending this retreat, and I've got Gabby with me, who is has been around with the Chopra Global team for quite some time. You've spoken at several of our retreats, events, and such.
We did the global meditation twice. I think that was the Guinness record for the largest number of people meditating at the same time.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That
do
was
that
awesome.
again. That was amazing.
I know. And Seduction of Spirit, I think you were there.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you don't know Gabby, you should get to know her. She just released her 7th book called Super Attractor. It is an incredible book. I'm so excited. I'm about halfway through it right now. And she's going to be going on stage shortly to be talking about her book and sharing some of the practical tips of how to apply what you talk about in here. So before we jump into that, just share a little bit more about your relationship with Deepak and why you're here and why we're so excited to have you.
I love what you guys do. I think I know that Deepak's a very mission-driven man, and I applaud his mission in a major way. So when I'm invited, I come. And we had a nice conversation this morning about just all kinds of things. We're having a great little intimate breakfast with all kinds of conversation. And it's interesting because when you put two different spiritual teachers together and they have different ways of communicating things, but you're still talking about the same thing.
Right.
Which is that was like my big aha moment. I was like, I knew this, but it's interesting to see it in real time where it's like, yeah, he's got his language and his communication, and so do I, but we're talking about the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Super Attractor. I'm really curious, what was it that called you to write this particular book, this topic?
It's a good question. I wrote this book because I wanted to feel good. I was ready. I had written 6 previous books, all different, all the same through line, but different ways of communicating that. But I felt that my earlier books, particularly the book that came before this one was called Judgment Detox, probably my most important book and probably the book that people never finish because it's hard. It's hard work. I mean, it's the devoted reader that's going to do that. And that book was really a very important book, but it wasn't, with it was talking about judgment. We're talking about having to clean up our side of the street and clean up and forgiveness. And it was, it was deep and it was heavy at times. So I felt in my own life, I was ready to start to write something that was going to infuse a lot of positive vibes into my own experience. I started writing this book the month that I found out I was pregnant. And it just brought me so much joy putting these pages into form. And I knew, you never know how a book is going to land for people, but I knew that no matter what, it was going to make people feel good. And that was my primary intention. So, and it's also just a book on empowering the reader to change their perspective and not be thinking that it's so hard, giving people really practical spiritual methods for changing their perspective so that they realign with the positive energy of love or God, whatever they believe in, and become a super attractor. And I talk a lot in the book about how we're all super attractors, but we just forgot. And so this is the reminder.
Yeah, it's beautiful. One of the things that you say in the book is that you begin to trust that it's safe to release the past and that you no longer need to fear the future.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. When we begin to reprogram the ways that we think, we are no longer the victim of the world we see. So we're no longer the victim of the ego, the fear-based belief system that dwells in the past and the future and is obsessed with form and is obsessed with being seen and being good enough. And a lot of that, there's actually a whole chapter in this book called There's More Than Enough to Go Around, and it really addresses that comparison mentality. There's methods throughout the entire book on how to really reorganize your belief systems so that you can undo the relationship you have with your ego. It doesn't mean that you abolish your ego, but you undo your relationship in such a way that you're no longer addicted to it and you're no longer believing in it. So while you're going to still have fearful thoughts, of course, while you're going to still notice yourself out of alignment, you'll notice it and you won't believe in it.
I love that.
It's big time.
Yeah, and I love that you have practical tools available to do just that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can talk about it and go, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But how do I do that?
And that's a big trick. You know, it's like you got to be able to give people, and the work that we do here and the work that the Chopra Center does, you have to be able to tell people this is the way, because it's very easy for us to just be like, oh yeah, meditate. Okay, but can you guide me? Or let's change our mind. But how, right?
Yeah.
And particularly when we're in really dark moments in our life, how could I possibly change my mind? And I address that in this book.
That's beautiful, because I know a lot of us are going through tough times. It's kind of a crazy time right now.
Well, as Deepak would say, it's what does he say? It's insane.
It's insane. It's insanity. Yeah.
Insanity.
It is. So we need a lot of help. So books like this, especially a book like this, that it's easy to read. And it's so relatable. You're so relatable. And I think that is personally what I love the most about you is you're so vulnerable. You share the stories that many of us are hiding about ourselves. And yet you are out there telling everyone, hey, I experienced this and it was painful. And this is how I worked my way through it.
Yeah, I have to say it's easier for me to be authentic and vulnerable, because if I'm not, I feel like a fraud. So how could I write these books but not tell you the truth about the hard times?
Yeah.
I would look like, I don't want to curse, I'm not going to curse. But I would look like, total fraud.
Yeah. So for you to speak...
Like I want to curse. I have a little son that's starting to speak. I have to really, we're also on Facebook Live, but I have to stop myself. Stop it.
Okay. You can if you need to, though.
No, I'm really working it.
So I love it. So, okay. So you say in the book also, in order to truly live as a super attractor, we must accept that good things can come to us easily, can come easily. So that's a bit of a hard concept for many of us to understand. Can you tell us a little more about that?
I think that the level of attraction that we have in our life is a direct reflection of how we feel. So when we start to take care of how we feel, which is what this book is about, we then become what I refer to as a super attractor. And in that place of feeling good, we become a magnet for what we desire. And it may not always come at the time that we want or in the exact form that we want, but it's always what we need. So there's an important message in really cleaning up our energy. Because a lot of people out there, you guys might be thinking, okay, I'm doing everything right. Why am I not attracting? Because it's really, how am I feeling? How are you feeling? You could be doing all the right things, but you're not feeling good.
Yeah, for sure. And when you say super attractor, just tell me, what does that mean to you?
A super attractor is someone who is completely committed and devoted to feeling good. And in that good feeling emotion, allows whatever they desire, what they believe in, what they are needing to open a door for them to come into their life. Now, does it mean that everything that you desire is yours? It's really what's of the highest good is coming to you. It's important. This isn't a book on how to get stuff, it's a book on how to feel good.
I love that. And, the whole idea that, sometimes we ask for certain things and we're so stuck on how it has to show up. I feel like what this book is telling me is you don't always know how it's going to show up. And in fact, it could show up even greater than you could possibly imagine. Way better than you could
possibly imagine. Well, I write in the book that I tell the story in my book of how I delivered my son, and that it was 3 years of trying to conceive. The day I delivered my son, I looked at him and I said, oh, wow, you chose some good timing, man. Good for you. Because it would have been a disaster any day sooner.
I love that. Yeah, I can relate. It took me a while to get there too. Okay, so you also say in the book, being a super attractor is about having a strong belief in your faith, tuning into the energy of love, and allowing the universe to guide you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are those things? Maybe break those things down.
Well, I think we have to have some level of faith that there's a higher power, and we wouldn't pick up this book, or we probably wouldn't be watching this Facebook Live right now if there wasn't a mustard seed of faith, right?
Yeah.
And so with that little bit of faith, that opens up this opportunity to believe, right? And when we start to believe in a spiritual relationship of our own understanding, that's when we begin to recognize the guidance that's around us. So we open the book with faith, we follow the book with devotion and commitment, and we change our energy. When we change our energy, we become a super attractor.
Beautiful. So when you speak about changing your energy, is it about, changing your vibration, about aligning yourself with what you want rather than with what you don't want? Because a lot of people are stuck in that lower vibration of what they don't want.
That's right. Yeah. It's about getting into alignment with feeling positive vibration, in alignment with your spiritual connection, and also not necessarily in alignment with what you want, while that is part of this. But when we get into alignment with what we think we want, sometimes there's still this neediness, or we want it, so we think we lack it.
Right.
And so we want to always feel the abundance of what we desire is already here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that can be tricky, though, right?
Yeah, so you got to read the book.
Yeah. All right. So one of the methods that you use in the book is to choose again method.
Yeah.
Which I really like. That really spoke to me. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a really good method, and I use it all day long. It's 3 steps. The first step is to notice the negative story that you have on repeat. And how does it make you feel? So I'm not good enough, I can't lose the weight, I am broke, whatever your story may be, and how does that make you feel? And notice yourself in the moment when you're stuck in that repeated behavior in that story. The second step is to forgive the thought, and most importantly, forgive yourself for having the thought. Because the moment that you forgive yourself for having the thought, you dissolve the ego. So it's no longer that I am that thought, it's that thought is separate from me. And so as we forgive it, we see it as separate from ourselves. That's a very important, valuable step, and we can't go to the next step without that one, okay? And the final step is to choose again. And this is once you've forgiven that thought and you see things differently, and you've forgiven yourself and released your ego, you can then choose a different thought. You can choose the next best feeling thought. So you might be thinking, I'm broke, and you're not going to reach for I'm a millionaire, because there's a part of you that doesn't believe that.
Right.
But you would reach for, I have a really good connection to somebody I can reach out to, or I'm very good at the work that I do and I trust that I will be guided to the next job. Something that you believe in, something that's tangible that you can feel connected to, and then keep going and reaching for better thoughts. And it's a very, very beautiful practice of reaching for the next thought is the Abraham Hicks practice. And Abraham Hicks is really mentioned 26 times in this book because a lot of the content was influenced by their work. Yeah.
Beautiful. And so for you, it sounds like you use these practices on a daily basis. There aren't things that you just like, yeah, here, try these, but these are things that work for you.
They only
personally.
Can come through me because I've lived them. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That second step, I just want to speak to that a little bit more, like forgiving yourself or for having that thought. And I think that maybe some people might get stuck there.
Yeah, they
right?
absolutely are going to get stuck there. And you could then just forgive the thought, because you may not be ready to forgive yourself for having the thought, but you could forgive the thought. You could just look at it and say, there's that thought again. I forgive the thought. That's why those 2 options are there.
I like that. Okay. That might be a little bit easier.
Definitely.
To get to.
Definitely.
Okay. And then the final step is like you get to be creative and maybe just like really the sky's the limit, right? And we're talking about that at this retreat, infinite possibilities. That's what you get to tap into when you get to that third step.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One of the things that really speaks to me is the chapter on have fun along the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we tend to forget to do. I know, especially as we get into our serious adult life, is, we have responsibilities and we have to be here and there and do all these things. And we forget that we can also have fun. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Listen, I measure my success now based on how much fun I'm having. Because if I'm not having fun, then I'm not aligned with my super attractor power and things aren't going to work. Yeah. So it's all about the joy that we bring. This afternoon, I finished working with you guys and I went back to my room. My son's nanny's with us, and she hasn't slept in 2 days because he's been like, up and down being on a new time zone and everything. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, okay, you go to sleep and I have 2 hours. And so I have 2 hours to be with my son in the middle of a busy work day. But I just said, I actually had a moment watching him dance and dancing with him. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, this is what I'm meant to be doing right now. Even though there was a lot of things that my team were saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, and I'm going to give a talk. It didn't matter. I was just like, I'm having so much fun and so much joy being in the presence of this human being. This is what I need to be doing right now. That's so just beautiful. Even if you think you have a million other things to do, find the fun.
Yeah. And I think like this is fun, like having this conversation, totally. Right? And this is what we do for work, and so how can you take fun even into the workplace? Because that's where I think it's incredibly important,
particularly if you hate your job. Yeah. If you can start to find moments of joy, even if it's during your lunch break when you get that coffee that you love or whatever that is, the more joy you seek in those moments, the quicker you'll be out of that job.
Right. Yeah, I love that. So have fun. If you're not having fun, then you know that you're not living your purpose, certainly, and you're not really tapped into really your heart's desires.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people out there aren't having fun. So let's just, I'll take a minute to honor them and honor that people believe we have to hustle to get things. And this book addresses all of that, and it gives people the opportunity to really recognize and witness the misalignment that they may not have even noticed because they think this is just what life is. Yeah. And so I really want to help guide the reader to call it out and then shine light on how they can shift it so that they're not stuck in that place where they're not even having any fun.
Yeah, beautiful. And you do that really well because I like books that actually give you the practical tips. Otherwise, we're reading this information and then we're still the same person after we've read it. Nothing's changed.
This is how-to book, exactly.
Yeah, that's perfect. So maybe we can then go into those 3 tips. What are your top 3 tips to manifesting a life beyond your wildest dreams?
I'll give you the tips from the book, but I won't teach them now because that would take me another hour, which I'm about to go do. But the first one is to get into the habit of choosing again. So you have that new method and make it a habit. Make it something you do 10, 15 times a day, all day long. And then it just becomes second nature. So you could be journaling it at first, step 1, step 2, step 3, but then it becomes something that you just do in your mind. And I do it all day long.
So it sounds like what you have to do in order to be tapped into that is practice self-awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
To really be tapped into where your present moment.
Yeah.
Where am I now?
What's going on?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
The second method from the book that I really recommend everyone follow is called the Spiritually Aligned Action Method. Read the book. And no, I mean, even if you don't, I'll blog about it or something. If you don't read it, you can just Google it. I'll find some information about it. But when we take action from a place of spiritual alignment, then we can trust that it's being taken care of and that what's of the highest good will come into form. But when we're taking action from this place of frantic energy, then it won't work.
Right.
Okay. And then I always say the third one I'll give you is lean towards joy and you will be led. So when we feel good, we can receive that guidance and inspiration to move to the next level of what we need to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it sounds simple enough, and it really can be simple enough, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's what's so fascinating about when we're in struggle and we're in, kind of stuck in a place of this is, life's so hard. We aren't aligned with the idea that this really can be simple. We are pushing against.
Right? That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And you may not realize it, but the book will really help the reader see how they are resisting their super attractor power, how they're resisting what they really want.
And that we all are, as you say in the book, we all are naturally super attractors. We just forgot.
That's right.
You just said that. So I like that because if I can continue to remind myself.
You don't have to go get anything. You just have to remember who you are.
Remember, right? And you and Deepak were talking this morning a little bit about, the idea of, you were mentioning, that you could do less and attract more.
That's right. That's a big part of the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So wow.
Sorry, I keep saying it's in the book, it's in the book, it's in the book. But I wrote it all. It's all there.
It's all there. It's great.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, it's an easy read, and it's easy but so powerful because you can just like the first few chapters, I was already like feeling a shift, occurring, because I was like, oh yeah, because I feel like the way you write, I love, is because you're like a cheerleader.
Yes, I am.
Throughout it.
Yeah.
And that feels really supportive, and also at the same time, you're being, you're sharing your vulnerable parts of who you are, and so again, very relatable. Do we have any questions on the Facebook Live that you want to take, or no? We're good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Anyone that's watching this now, the book is $1.99 until midnight Eastern tonight on ebook. So that's something to check out. And definitely check out Detox events. Go to the website, check it all out. These events are very special. It's really wonderful to be here and to be part of it, but to just see people just happy and lit up. Check it all out.
All coming together for the same purpose.
That's right.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was so nice. Thank you for reading the book.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. We hope to see you again. Bye now.